So I have this in my notes. I didn't annotate who said this quote, but it was not me. It was from conference, the women's conference. If we keep the associated covenants, the sacred priesthood ordinances will change us, sanctify us, and prepare us to enter the presence of the Lord. And this is my note that I put in associated with that quote. I do my best to keep my covenants. I also do my best to repent when I don't. One thing that I love about the living gospel is that it is always a winning battle. Even in the midst of sin, I can be winning the war against evil because of my privilege to repent, be forgiven, learn from my mistakes, and ultimately become a better disciple of Jesus Christ. So, before I joined the church, I felt a lot of, hopelessness. I felt like I was pretty much doomed for the rest of my life. I'm just eternally grateful for the gospel and the opportunities that has given me personally to better myself and to, ultimately give me hope and give me hope to have a eternal family and to have the joy of being married with children, even though that's definitely hard, but I love the gospel for that because I can have that privilege for eternity. These things I say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Dear Father, we thank you for this day. We ask you that help bless us with thy strength, and that we will be worthy to receive it. That we will not set aside the power of work. We know that very few blessings come passively, and that we need to work hard to obtain many of the blessings that thou hast in store for us. And we ask you that we will stay motivated during these trying times of our last semester, and that we'll finish strong, and ultimately stay positive and do our best and trust thee. We ask thee these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much. Okay, I have a proposal for you. We were reading some of the class feedback, and someone intimated that your time was being wasted by me using the fishbone last week. And I know it's more than one person because they said we. Okay, so number one, they said you're wasting our time because it was already used in 490. Like, I go and talk to those guys and see what they're going to do and then copy them. I had no idea that you had used the fishbone part. So I thought it was actually a really good teaching strategy. And with that said, I don't want to waste your time. I did have a PowerPoint for today. But hey, you guys have seen PowerPoints, so I won't waste your time doing that.
Then what are we doing?
Well, exactly. So if you want to just ask me questions, we can just have a discussion, or you can choose to do the PowerPoint. It's up to you. So we want to accommodate you guys and your learning. And so I really try to do that. I really try to think out of the box, and maybe I'm, not getting it right. But if it's wasting your time, then the PowerPoint might be as well. We can just talk about what questions that you have, or maybe questions on the ePrep, we can do that. Or we can go through the PowerPoint, which I hope has some application and some questions in it as well. So I just leave it up to you guys what to do. And I know that one person, you think, well, maybe that's just one person, but they use the word we in there 4 or 5 times. So what do you want to do? It's up to you. I want to accommodate you guys. So today we're talking about case management and program management, or program,
What was ranked the
Highlights.
highest?
Sorry?
What was ranked the highest for this class? You looked at preps, right? We have to rank stuff.
Well, actually, the ones that I read said both, and I know that both are very, very important. Think about it. Healthy People 2020 is a program management for national, okay? However, at the same time, with that said, case management is done on an individual level, and that is done, how high that number must be. So, because there's a lot of people that need to be followed through the community in their illness, and they have plans made through case managers, who are the coordinators. So they're both pretty important. Program management is huge. They both are. So I wouldn't limit it to just one or the other, because you might be asked about either. Or, you know what, you may be asked about none. We don't know. So we try to do our best to meet your needs. So what do you want to do? Do you want to just talk, or do you want to do the PowerPoint? PowerPoint. What do you want to do, Alex?
Well, I mean,
You're just
go
going-
ahead with the PowerPoint. I don't see why we have to use so much time talking about one person's opinion. I mean, so let's
Well,
go
like
over
I
what's
said,
the
they
most
said we
important.
several times, and so I just wanted to throw it out to the group and see what you want to do. It's totally okay with me.
We only have 50 minutes now
Exactly.
to get started.
All
But
right.
I have to write notes on what you say, so I can turn this in and get it.
Okay. That's true. Okay. Is everybody okay with PowerPoint?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. And all right, so we are going to go through case management first. All right, you saw the term care management versus case management. The difference, I just wanted you to be aware, is that care is a process, okay? It's like taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of, care management. Case management is a strategy, and there are different tools that, healthcare workers, public health nurses can use to help with that strategy of taking care of individuals out in the community. Okay, do you guys have any questions about this, the difference between those two? So if someone says, yeah, their care management is such and such, for CHF, okay, with comorbidities. Yeah, that is a care, they have to be cared for, but case management is a strategy to take care of them out there. So, a community health nurse involved in case management would mostly, or most likely, what, A, B, C, or D? You guys can read through those. Which one? Anybody? Jenny, what thought?
Is it, I think maybe C.
Okay. Go for it. Just say it. It's good.
In case management.
You are right. So just remember the individual. Program management, when we talk later, it will be for groups or for, a certain population. All right, so case management, individual clients in the system. All right, how do they do it? You've got your intervention wheel. You've got all these different tools to use. Actually, case management, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's just right here. It's taking care of the individual. All right, so it is true that you still have to go to the community and get those resources and any systems that might help, but it is individual focused. All right, so that's what you need to remember. This is the case management model. Again, you've got your core right there, which is the client and the case manager. So tell me how this begins. How does this all begin? So how does a client and case manager get together.
Someone has a problem.
And they're, okay, most likely in the hospital many, many times. Before they're discharged, what happens? Yes, and actually, sometimes on the floor, they will have a case manager working on that floor. And what they do is they hook them up with whatever needs they might have out in the community. Or if there is an organization out in the community that actually takes them from the hospital and coordinates and makes sure that they continue to get that care, that's what that case management facility does. So it starts by someone, of course, being ill, needing something. Many, many times it'll be something acute. Chronic, but it could be from an acute occurrence. So for instance, if someone's in a car accident and they've got brain injury, they've got, kind of whatever, they actually get, because it's going to be a chronic problem, they get hooked up with a case manager who helps them to recover. Okay? So as a case manager, what would you put in your shopping cart for an elderly person? Now, I haven't said an elderly person with CHF or elderly person with chronic kidney disease or whatever. We don't know that part yet. And with whatever, comes with that client, that's the resources that you would go to in the community. But just an elderly person, just very generic.
Bruins.
Hi. What did you say?
Bruins.
Okay, ignore him.
I don't know what's wrong with that. That's what they're worried about, right?
That's true. No, you're right. Diet, very important. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like a high calorie protein shake or
Okay, so anything generic with the elderly, that was good. Okay, what else?
I don't know, something to maybe lighten like a staircase or like a nightlight.
Oh, good, yeah. Fall risk, right? What are the stats on elderly falling? Someone 65 and over, 1 in 6 people will fall and be injured critically, okay? What else would you put in your shopping cart as a case manager to help an elderly person? Think about what kind of sites that you might go to, what kind of resources.
So like,
Go ahead.
other than a grocery store, is that what you're gonna have?
No, this is just symbolic.
Oh,
You've got a cart, you've got to put different resources in that cart. You're collecting all those things. Oh, you were taking that literal, sorry. No, it's just like, okay, what? Oh,
Senior center, like resource,
Yes.
resource.
Yes. So this is, this is symbolic. What are you gonna put just as a case manager in your basket?
So on our test yesterday, it talked about like Meals on Wheels, adult daycare.
Okay, good,
and stuff
good.
like that.
Okay, good. So here's just a couple that I came up with. AARP, you've probably heard of that. It's just a, retired person's organization they have, and they offer a lot of different things for older people. Think about this, independent laboratory for making visits to perform venipuncture. So for instance, if they can get somewhere, great, but what if they can't? Then they need someone to come to their house and maybe they need a Coumadin or something, drawn. So, going out and seeing what laboratories have that capability. These are just kind of out of the box things, but, pharmaceutical companies, you've probably seen, commercials on TV even if you can't afford your medications. I remember the one in my mind, it keeps going AstraZeneca, maybe it would help. Meaning that if you can, that ad, but it's, just people that come with their meds. Maybe they don't have Part D in their Medicare, which is the drug, capability for Medicare. So maybe they just absolutely can't afford that. So, some churches have parish nurses, and I don't know if we're gonna really mention parish nurses, but they're nurses out in the community and they may or may not get paid, but they are people who, it's mostly volunteer, giving up their time to help anybody with any nursing capabilities. So many times they will come out from a particular church, so you need to be in contact with the different churches that have a parish nurse. And so this is a really good contact. Local government agencies, you can just, go for it and just call them and say, I've got a person that says, what resources do I need? And you would probably do this as a new caseworker, sorry, not worker, but manager. By the way, I was gonna tell you, caseworker, when you hear that term, that's usually a social worker, okay, caseworker, and they've got a caseload. But this is a case manager, and that has to do with nursing. So anyway, so local government agencies, any organization in the area that aging or senior in their name, like you were talking about with the senior center, maybe they can offer some assistance. So these are just some examples of resources. It's kind of like, where do you even start? But once you've got, as a case manager, after you've got these places in your toolbox, in your repertoire, then time after time, you'll go back to those places and use them. So case management, complex coordinating activities. Why is it more complex in rural settings?
Not as much access to resources.
Yeah, that's pretty easy, right? So telehealth is very, very important, and we've talked about telehealth before. So tell me about telehealth in rural settings as a caseworker, case manager. The reason I put resource center here is because that's what it is called, a tech center that needs to be in contact with that rural community. And as a nurse out in the community, you need to make sure that that community is associated with a resource center so they can facilitate the telehealth that might be able to come through. Does that make sense? Okay, because if you have a community up in the Appalachians and you have no resource center, no way to, no satellite that hits that area, you're not going to be able to get any kind of telecommunications. So that's important for nurses to know. All right, so again, telehealth, the 5 rights of case management, which I wrote right here. So you don't need to memorize it, but you just need to make sure that you realize that, with case management, you have the right care for that person, the right timing for them, hopefully as soon as they get out of the hospital, the better. The right provider, maybe, they have a provider that they don't really have a lot of confidence in or whatever, we need to address that. The right setting and the right price. Why is the right price important?
You're not gonna do it if you can't afford it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, having to do with their insurance. So guess what? You know what, case managers, they have to know a whole lot, even about insurance. So they will develop a case management plan and a disease management for that particular person. And this is a really important concept here that you don't hear very much, but life care. What is life care?
It's a plan generally for those with very bad chronic diseases, and so it's progressing more than they're able to control, so they need to have a life plan.
Okay, so anybody give an example?
So one of the questions I think was like talking about diabetes, but it was under control. So if the diabetes is not able to get under control using that formula or insulin or whatever else, then they need to have a life plan. Because it's progressing, say they become blind or whatever else because of it.
And I would venture to say that life planning is, or life care planning tools are for people that are very incapacitated. These individuals cannot maybe even dress themselves, cannot feed themselves. And think about someone that they, have this kind of happening in their life, and they were normal before that. Normal meaning, that's a big word, but that they could care for themselves before, and then after this event, the whole rest of their 50, 60 years that they live, whatever it is, they need help. And so there's actually, I know an MP down in Salt Lake that does just this, and she's super busy all the time. these kind of occurrences. And that's what she does. She and her son do that. So this is an example of a case management facility. This is for children. And so what is service coordination? It just kind of gives the client, kind of a description, a case management function whereby an agency will assist the Medicaid child and their family to obtain and coordinate needed services. The focus is to be an advocate for the parent and child who qualifies any child with a confirmed developmental delay or disability, any child who has severe emotional disturbance or health special needs, medical, physical, mental, emotional, etc. So how do they get this? How do they obtain that service? You have to look out in the community and get hooked out. There are several, in fact, many case management facilities that are available, but you have to choose the one that resonates with you or is recommended. In this one, this is just a model that this one in Idaho Falls is an example, Innovative Healthcare Concepts. That's the name of their case management company. And this is their intervention wheel, so to speak. So basically they go around here and they just make sure that whatever is around here, and this is through experience that they needed people that needed these type services. And they go through and say, do you need this, do you need this, do you need this? And then they go with their resources and everybody up.
Are they, what's their qualification? Are they college, or are they just awesome organizers? Or
These are nurse-based.
these people that work in the
And they
case
might
management?
have a business manager who runs the business end of it, but you have nurses that are providing this care, and they are case managers. And then they, hook their clients up with different resources in the community that they need. They work very, very closely with the family, and times, schedules, and then we're gonna talk about formative and summative evaluation. They're concerned with that as well. Are they really meeting the client's needs? They need to know that before they get to the end of it. So we'll talk about that in a second. This is just kind of like the case management, triangle. This is just their cyclic case management funnel. So basically what they do is say, okay, these are the needs of a client. They'll put everything in here, and this is the client and the family right here as the filter. And then with their agreement, with their direction, these are the desired outcomes. So they want to be high quality, cost effective. I mean, these are kind of commonsensical statements right here. Client, provider, agency satisfaction, appropriate utilization, like that. So it's kind of like the shopping cart. You put everything in there, depending on what the family needs, what the individual needs, and then, what are you getting out of it? Does this match up to the goals or to what they need? Okay, I just put this on here because your book was talking about these are some of the skills that case managers need to have. Advocacy skills, conflict management. If you have an insurance company that says, I'm sorry, we can only afford this much, and you're in there to kind of advocate for your client, and you're going to have to talk to them and negotiate and use some of those skills. Collaboration skills, these are basically the kind of the checklist of what might be needed for that person, and then advocacy skills. We talked about in your e-prep, the informing, supporting, and affirming. And of course, systematic problem solving. Okay, so here's your situation. Can someone read this, please? Randy, can you read this?
During a home visit, a case manager for a community health center notes marked fitting edema, shortness of breath, and increased fatigue in a 57-year-old male client who lives alone. The client is admitted to the hospital where he is diagnosed with congestive heart failure. The case manager works with the hospital's utilization manager to devise the discharge plan. The case manager's most logical next step would be to
What? So they've talked to the hospital's utilization manager, or whatever you want to call that person, that's usually on a floor that, you know, kind of coordinates outside the hospital.
Would you speak with the patient to talk about goals and what's next?
Okay, so I'll give you a choice. So question, that was the question. So what's the next thing? So the question is, works with the case manager's most logical next step would be. What do you think? Anybody? Somebody's been reading the chapter. Yes. Remember, assess, right? So you have to know the problem, define the problem, and assess. All right, good. And here's the rationale right here. I'll let you read through it real quickly. You need to do that. All right, next question. In case management, it is unlikely that any single professional has the expertise, knowledge, skills required to achieve success. So, you know, a case manager might be a pivotal point, but they can't know everything. Synergy is produced by all involved parties. So whoever, you know, your resources are and that you talk to, you've got to work with everybody. And don't forget the family, significant others, etc. These statements relate to the sequential process of what? What are you doing with everybody? Collaboration. Okay, good. Collaboration. So this is just what I said. So collaboration. So do you have any other questions about case management before we go on to program management? All right, so program management. This is kind of like the nursing process, if you haven't noticed, right here, you know, in those steps, the assessing, planning, implementing, evaluating. So the initial and most critical step in planning and evaluating a health program is, okay, define the problem and assess the need, okay? Very important. So that's what you want to do first. Whoop. Here we go. So, like I said, Healthy People 2020 is an example of a national program based on this program evaluation, you know, of a need in the community. So it's national. It started in 1980, and every 10 years, of course, when they re-update, and we're getting pretty close to the next decade. So what do you think is going to be asked or assessed or looked at in the next decade from what you can see, knowing what you know, how many times you visited Healthy People 2020, and then realize what's still going on out in the community? What do you think might be for next decade?
I think the top's gonna be obesity.
Okay, good. Has that improved?
No.
I don't know. I don't think it really has. I mean, New York has, you know, set their demands about how many ounces, what is it, you can't have more than 20 ounces of sugar drink a day, or New York City has that. Yeah, I don't know how they enforce it,
How do we control alcohol?
but, yeah. But, and there are things out there. Anybody know of anything else that, and there was another one, was it, okay, down in Utah, they actually raised the age for alcohol.
The blood alcohol limit, they were
Yeah,
lowering.
blood alcohol, well, they actually lowered that, okay, but I think they raised also the age of alcohol consumption. Utah just did that.
Well, interestingly, Utah has the highest number of fast food restaurants per 1,000 residents in the country.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like 8.
Oh.
Yeah, it's almost 1 for every 1,000 people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, they beat everyone out pretty good.
They,
Utah.
it's very tempting.
Wait, so how old is the alcohol consumption in Utah? That was like a national.
In Utah. they-
Yeah, so how?
So I'm not sure, I think it's 20, I don't know, but they raised it. So instead of 18.
They have to be 21.
Or
Everywhere.
21 or something, yeah. But they raised it, you can look it up. But I just heard that on the news, so I just kind of, barely listened to it. But I just was like, oh, okay, well, that state is trying to do something, whereas Colorado is what? Marijuana. My son just moved to Denver, right, about a year ago, and he said, wow, I am just trying to get used to, one of those, what did he call them? Marijuana something on every corner, Not, he didn't use the word store, but it was something else, but they're just all over the place. And totally all over the place. And, yeah, so, you've got states doing this and states doing the other, so on a national, 2020, I don't know. Obesity, I think, is a really good guess, so. All right, so if you guys will go to either this one or this one, it's about the same. And let's do that. If you'll go to that. I'll just go to this one. All right, so down here.
Sister Darling, can we go back to the PowerPoint for just a second?
Sure.
Yeah, I think let's-
This?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. These kind of feed into each other, so if you do one or the other, you'll get to the same place. But this one just tells stories from the field, and actually it tells about the different, community plans or program management, from actual things that are happening. This other one, you'll get to a map. Let me show you. Are you good? Is everybody good? Okay. So either one of these are fine. So all right, so these little icons kind of jump down here. And just open up one from the state you're from. And see what kind of program management they're doing. Oh, I know, on here, by the way, Idaho, Nevada, Montana, and Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, they're kind of
That's so interesting.
not doing anything. So if you're from Idaho, just pick another state. So someone from California? Anybody here from California? So you can actually go in here and it'll tell you, this is the healthy people topic. So nutrition and weight status, okay? And then this is the program management that is going on. Achieving a healthy weight, say yes to water, a CDC preventative health and health services block grant success story. So these guys got a grant to, do something with their nutrition right here, their weight, healthy weight. And then you can click on that. It'll take you to another website outside of this one, and it'll show you what they're doing. So let's click on it if you. All right, so it says that. All right, also you can go to state plans right here. All right, when you go to state plans, you can go to any state, hopefully where you're from. Again, Nevada, Idaho, Montana, they're not on here. But let's just go to
Does that
mission.
mean you're not like trying?
That means that they don't have a program management set up. Yeah.
So yeah, they're not trying.
So, this is, through the, CDC's, yeah, they don't have anything that they're actively working on right now. That doesn't mean that next year when we get a new governor, that they might, for instance, Idaho, whatever is huge in Idaho for, leading cause of disease or of death. I think suicide is one of them. So that doesn't mean that another governor might, institute some kind of a national plan. So these are programs. So in Maryland, what are they doing? It says you're being rerouted right here. Come on. Or you can click on that. And you can go to that state and it says Maryland. And each time you click on one of these, it will say Maryland or Virginia or Texas, wherever you're from. And it'll have on there what they are doing for their program management. So right here,
Whoa, it's so glory.
and here's their, so did anybody find anything interesting from your state? So how about California? Like I said, I kind of clicked on that one.
What do you mean, like, interesting?
Any kind of program management plan that is interesting. I know in California, they're actually making sure that migrant workers are immunized. So that's one of the programs that's going on in California. Yeah. All right, so over here on your lower left, you also have mobilize, assess, plan, and implement. And that's what they call, and track, and that's what they call map it. Okay, map it. So if you have a particular problem, you would first mobilize, and mobilize meaning, you ask yourself these questions about the problem. Who should be represented? Who are the potential partners? Down here on your lower left, these are very interesting. Click into one of these three. Because on this one, it says County Health Coalition. So if you click on that one, this is actually talking about how they mapped it with a community. A county health department addresses lead poisoning. And they actually have a lead poisoning coalition, and it's called Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, LPPP. And it's a story, and we won't go into it because of time, but it's a story about what they did to assess right here, what they did to plan, what they did to implement, and how they're tracking it. So these are actually good examples. Again, if you click on Workplace Wellness Committee, right here there was another program management. It talks about a lady who had a heart attack, and she was out of work for 3 months, and she returns to work, and what they do at work, so that it helps these type of people, assessing and planning, implementing and tracking. And then the other one is local school board. And parents of high school students have been calling to ask what the school board is going to do about a number of underage drinking incidents in school. Did you, it was on the news recently that the state of Idaho, do you remember this maybe, or have you seen any advertisements? They're asking if they can, at some of these games, like at Pocatello when they have their game, ISU games, and somewhere in Idaho.
Senior Olympics?
No, they're talking about allowing, alcoholic beverages at baseball games and football games and all that, so evidently now we don't sell those. But they were asked about a year ago if they could, have alcoholic beverages, and it was a no from the state. And now, whoever, in Idaho, and now they're being asked again if they can, so it's been about a year later, so. Anyway, but things are happening in our community all the time. That's just something that I was just thinking about, So we're talking about here, a method in action where they program management being asked for from parents about alcoholic beverages at school functions. Or there was a drinking incident at school events.
Yeah.
All right.
Please and.
In the minutes.
$8. All right, so what's the benefits of program evaluation and what's the benefits of, like I said, the biggest one, helping people 2020?
What are the biggest benefits?
What are the benefits?
Well, it helps people become aware of
Okay.
problems, so they've identified a problem. And I mean, as we learned in the chapters, that you can't get a community to do anything unless they're interested in it. So I
Okay,
mean,
yeah.
at least these people are making people aware, and some people apparently are interested in it.
Okay, so what is that called when you consider people that might be interested in it? Who are they?
Investors.
Okay, the word is stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders? So who are those that are affected? It's not just the community members, it could be, different agencies, it could be different businesses. I mean, when we're talking about drinking, all the alcoholic stores, they would, be for it, and they would be a stakeholder or something like that, but we're not going there. But I'm just saying, so anybody that can benefit from a particular initiative is a stakeholder. Okay? So, benefits should answer, are the needs being met? And are the problems it was designed to solve being solved? So what Ammon was saying is that in the next decade, obviously obesity is not being solved right now, right?
That in 2013 and 2014, 40% of the population of adults was obese.
How many percent?
40.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Almost.
wow, okay. So what are the two methods of evaluation for program evaluation? What are the two methods? Say, is that right? You're right. Summative, formative and summative. So what's the difference?
Formative is an ongoing, continuous evaluation throughout the implementation of the program, and then summative is after it's completed.
Okay. Anybody have any examples?
Would it be, so the formative, they're talking about costs of this thing, the people that are attending, kind of those things that you look at up to the end.
Okay. You could have benchmarks that you bring in all your stakeholders and say, are your needs being met? Are we going over cost, for instance? These kinds of things. Okay, and then summative is like, anybody? Kind of at the end, and who would you include in that summative evaluation? Pretty much everybody, yeah.
Any involvement.
So this is just the program evaluation process. where, like I said, you engage the stakeholders. If they had not bought into it, forget it, right? So Gene Jones is a nurse working in an occupational setting. He provides work physicals and drug screens for all the new workers. There are 125 construction workers that need to be managed. He also provides first aid and initial triage assessments in the event of an injury on a job. If necessary, he refers the employee to the emergency department, primary care provider, whatever they need. The construction company reports that they have an excellent safety record. There are no reported injuries for more than 375 days. There are no new construction workers needed at this time, and all screenings are up to date. So sounds like Jim is doing his job, right? He's noticed that several workers smoke on their breaks and obtain their meals from a truck that stops at the site. So what kind of food are they getting? That's good, right? Okay, he's interested in providing education to the construction workers on health promotion behaviors. We'd like to implement a wellness program. So we'll see. What is the primary purpose of planning a wellness program in the occupational health setting? Anybody? Yeah, I think I heard somebody say B.
Provides the.
Provides a proactive means of promoting the health of the employees. Okay, so you're good. That's true. So instead of reacting to, and what level of prevention is that? So,
Well, I guess it depends if the smoker, but it's mostly primary. And if
yes.
the smokers have something, then maybe it's secondary.
Right, right. So instead of nurses having to, fix a problem, they want to make sure that they address it before there really is a problem. All right, so question, Gene the nurse is interested in initiating a wellness program for the construction employees. First step in the process. You guys know this. First step. Okay. A, you know this. Okay, next. He distributes survey to all construction workers on the site. Why?
Because it's in charge of all of them.
Yes, he's trying to get everybody
They're all
on board.
stakeholders.
Yes, exactly. And what element of program planning is being assessed? Which one?
I'll take D.
You took it right. Okay, good.
What are
These
they?
groups are considered the stakeholders. Very good. All right. So he creates the worksite wellness program and includes an educational program about smoking. Okay. So what sources would he use to determine the success? Select all that apply. What do you think? What'd you say?
I said B, C, E.
Okay. Anybody else?
Will they smoke breaks? Yeah, I don't know.
What kind of breaks are we talking about?
It doesn't say smoke
Pretty
breaks,
sure
don't
it
Yeah,
read
I'll
into
pay
it.
them not reading. I'm not.
Okay. C, D, E. Okay, C, D, E.
Because
I
it could
would-
be a different kind of sickness, just for no reason. The flu is going
So, success, this is an eval, right?
on.
And review of medical records of employees to see exactly, from,
So can you request those then, as the nurse for a corporation?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's under your authority. You can do that, that's your job. Interviews with employees and observations, all right? So these are some of the feedback mechanisms that you can use. Okay, so for sources of program management, program evaluation for that program, program clients, so you read this, hopefully you can get their attitude scales, you can use those. Client satisfaction survey, but in one of your pre-class questions, it asks about this. It asks which of the following would you use, and surveys, and one of the rationales said that surveys are quite expensive to use, but you can use those. But it's expensive, so if you were in a, didn't have any fun category, or status, then you might not use that.
Why would it be expensive? I mean, there's obvious ways now to make it extremely cheap. I mean, I could use Google Forms and create a survey that I send out, and it's absolutely free.
That's a good point. Yeah, but a lot of times they don't have that capability. Maybe some of the workers don't have computers that they could get on and do that survey. So, the old, paper pencil type thing usually works really good because everybody can do that.
Joanne, I wonder too, is, I don't know how many of you all get a survey and you look at it like, or you think, oh, I'll do it later. It's the follow-up. It's like, a lot of surveys, they don't get a lot of response back to them. So all the money and effort and man hours you have in watching them to see and tallying them all up, and people still aren't returning them, so then you send it out again. I mean, it's just it's a big process.
Yes. It's kind of like, if you get a 20 to 30% return on your surveys, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So, and that sounds really low, but that's considered very good return. So like, Sis Georgia was saying, some people, they see it, they just don't even do it. But if you send them out, maybe everybody's sitting around, send them out, say, can you just do this right here? I'll just be right here to collect it or whatever. So sometimes that works better. And these are other pieces of program evaluation. You can go to the records. Like I said, epidemiological data. Don't forget that. Very important. And those are accessible. So this is just talking about the two levels of program evaluation, the formative and summative. I think those are important for you to know, but they're not that hard. So question, the nurse engaging in a formative program evaluation would most likely do what? Formative. Okay, anybody else? It's A. Okay, why not B? That's not formative, that's summative. Because that's at the end. Okay? So A, medical record audits for quality assurance, and that's why hospitals actually do that. Okay, question. A nurse is completing a summative evaluation for a program designed to decrease teen pregnancy. What is an example of a formative evaluation for this?
Teen pregnancy is decreased after a year.
What? No, it depends on what your benchmarks are.
Oh wait, summative, we're talking.
It depends on well, I think you were on the right track, but it depends on how, long the program is. Summative at the end, yeah, how many? But along the way, what? Formative evaluation question for this.
Well, I guess you have to do a number. How many sexual partners have you had in the last so much time?
You could, yeah. That would indicate their sexual activity status, yeah. What else? Sorry?
What birth control methods?
Good. Do they understand the birth control methods? What if you've given them all this information and they don't really understand it? So these benchmarks, for the formative along the way, you catch that. And then you will have a better summative at the end because there may be less pregnancies because you caught it. So good. So which of the following are the major sources of information for program evaluation? Select all that apply.
Is that?
Hint, it isn't all of them.
The last three. The last three.
I would say A as well.
No.
CD.
Why not?
Everything but C.
Yeah,
All
sure.
but D.
They're all looking.
All right, A, C, and E.
Oh, what was D?
So A, all right, and this is C, program plans and program records. Why not media reports?
Because
They're falsifying.
They're biased. And, program providers, why not them?
They're biased too.
Well, they're biased too, that's right. They can be biased, they wanna sell something. Okay, good. And we got done 2 minutes before.
Hey, I have a question for everybody. I put this article last semester on the Facebook. Somebody had done a project about health eating, but you know, as we're talking about kind of controlling the sizes of fluids, of pop or whatever, this article talked about a school up in Canada that teachers in this particular school were going through and telling kids, and they were trying to educate them. It was part of the health and physical education curriculum, but they were taking food out of the kids' lunches saying, this isn't healthy, and they would say, you have to eat this instead. So then parents came in, they were furious. And the cool thing about this article, I can put it on our Facebook too, is that it talked about how the school board, I mean, if you think about programs and different things, you've got the school board, but it was just this one school and some teachers. So in the school board, they say, we have no policy that allows teachers to go in and make that decision and decide if a granola bar is more healthy than a muffin or whatever. But there were parents that wrote in, they were furious. So what do you think about that? I mean, it's obviously something they're trying to do, but I think that that's one of the biggest problems we have when we try to implement things that are healthy, is that people are just gonna fight against it. You know, they feel like their freedoms are taken.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, I mean, schools, I mean, high schools, they don't teach things that are actually necessary for life sometimes. Like, they don't teach finances, they don't teach nutrition, they don't teach anything like that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, they teach like life sciences and stuff like that, but it doesn't actually teach you anything. You don't remember anything. So I mean, like, it's just, I'm gonna be honest here. I mean, like, I didn't learn anything from high school. Like, I learned it all afterwards because, like, it just had nothing I was interested in, and they didn't teach in it in an interesting way. So I mean, like, they need to teach things that are actually applicable to life, and then actually students would start participating and having interest.
So does that mean that one day you want to be on the school board?
I've thought about being a school nurse before, but I mean, yeah, I mean, like, that's one of the biggest things I have an issue with is our education system, and it's just, it drives me nuts because
So where
students don't
are
learn.
you from?
I'm from Washington,
Okay.
and you know, they're trying to spend $400 billion more in Washington to increase their education, but they're just gonna increase the length of the day, and I can't remember what else they're gonna do, but it's gonna be absolutely useless, because.
Quality, not quantity, huh?
Yes, exactly.
Well, what are they missing? In terms of the evaluation, what are they missing?
They're missing the students' perspectives.
Exactly, they're missing the summative, okay, along the way.
So I mean, I think it's stupid that they don't do an evaluation of the students, to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they've done studies over in Norway, Sweden, and all those other places. The kids learn more because they get more playtime, and they learn from nature, they get to go outside, and they also have a teacher's piece.
Thank you. I'm very passionate about